Hello everybody, in today's video we are going to continue with our series on the history of Islam. In previous videos we have spoken regarding the divisions that existed within after the death of the Prophet. We spoke about the first caliphs and the different factions that form within Islam in the early stages. We saw the opposition to the first caliphs. We saw the division between regarding the schism that happened between the Shia or the party of Ali, who supported Ali, and in many moments there were some tensions and struggles for power and control of the caliphate. And we saw how even the first caliphs were assassinated. We saw even the assassination of Ali by the hands of the Khawarij. And we saw the split also of other groups known as the Ibadi, who settled in what is today Oman, in Zanzibar also. So we have seen and noticed that many things happen that weakened the structure of the Islamic community at the beginning. The divisions of the caliphate from within that caused damage indeed, because it led to the assassination of the caliphs. And we have to emphasize that even though there were divisions, it is very significant to indicate that first of all, after the death of the Prophet in 622, we have to understand that most of all the Arabian Peninsula was already conquered. And within 24 years after the death of the Prophet, from 632 until 656, most of the territory in the Middle East was under the control of the Muslims. From Arabian Peninsula, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Mesopotamia, and it was indeed amazing. Even parts of Armenia, Persia, all of this territory came very, very fast under the control of the Muslim caliphate, which is simply amazing in such a short time, the speed, the fastness of all these conquests that took place. And the expansion continued. Even we have to say that though there were some fractional divisions within, it was a significant indeed advance and rapid conquest of all these territories. And even after, when Muawiyah became the ruler and established the Umayyad dynasty, the Umayyad Caliphate, the expansion was even faster, and he expanded the empire to bigger and larger and far areas, far countries, up to what is today Spain. At the time became known as Al-Andalus, and the Muslim army continued to the north, up to France, and they were stopped by the leader of the Franks, Charles Martel, in the famous, or one of the Frankish leaders, I correct myself, Charles Martel, halting the advance of the Muslims forces at the Battle of Tours. And if not because of this, the conquest would continue. So it was really significant how swift and effective the conquests were. And we have to emphasize also that at the beginning the Muslim armies, they expanded by land. Most of the conquests were by land. But by the 8th century, the Muslim Caliphate became also a naval superpower. They have now control on the sea. They have a naval fleet that could easily reach Europe and India and many other territories, and they became very, very powerful, not only by land but also by sea by this time. Therefore, they had control of the sea also, and all the movement from within all this area of Africa, all the area of the Mediterranean basin, up to Central Asia. Therefore, the most powerful empire at the time was the Muslim Empire, because even the other weak empires that still existed at the time, such as the, in this case, Constantinople by the Byzantine Empire, who was very weak at the time, though still resisted and put strong resistance to the Muslims, but was not like the old army or the old empire from the time of the Roman Empire. It was weak already after a lot of battles and indeed terrible wars against the Persian Empire. And the Franks in Europe, they were also not that strong. Later on, they became very more, especially the Franks when the Crusades and everything. But compared to the Muslim Empire, they were weak. And we know that the Muslim army tried many times to conquer the Byzantine Empire, and the Byzantine Empire stopped the advance of the Muslim forces. Therefore, we could say that the two major empires, the two major forces that opposed the expansion of Islam at the time, was the Byzantine Empire in the east and the Frankish rulers in the west. If not because of this, as I said, the expansion would continue. And we know that multiple times the Muslim armies try to conquer Constantinople, what today we call Istanbul. But at the time was Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, who was the heir of the Roman Empire. And in two occasions, 678 and 718, the Muslims tried to conquer it, but they couldn't. Until finally it happened in the 15th century with the appearance of the Ottoman Empire, as we will describe later on in future videos. Therefore, we have to also stress that all this rapid expansion facilitated the expansion of Islam, but also was thanks to the people who live in the land, who saw in many cases the Muslim army as liberators, because they were under the oppression of certain regimes, and when the Muslims came, they saw them as the ones who freed them from the oppression of other empires. And therefore, because of the simplicity of the expansion of Islam, meaning that they did not force anyone to abandon their religion, they simply said, you can keep your religion as long as you pay the tax for protection, the dhimma. That's why they were called dhimmis. If you pay us for protection, you can live here, practice your religion, do whatever you want, no problem. And because of this, indeed, it was also successful at the beginning, the expansion and the establishment of the caliphate into such larger and very far areas in different countries. But also we have to say that there were many difficulties, because now the Muslim army was in control of such a vast territory, in contact with many different people, different culture, different language, different ideology. How you can control all of these people for such a long time? Yeah, at the beginning you conquer, yes, but then later on what happens? Who's gonna rule the countries? Who's gonna administer the countries? You don't know the country, you don't know the people, you don't know the culture. So you need people who work for you, who knows everything. Therefore, they left and they kept natives at the beginning in charge of ruling or governing certain areas, until later on we know that Arabs indeed became more familiar with everything and they took control. But at the beginning, this could be pointed as a weakness of the expansion, internal weakness of this rapid expansion of the caliphate. And for this, I will quote briefly, just to finish our video today and our commentary, I will quote briefly from Professor of Islamic Studies Tariq Ramadan, where he says the following regarding this expansion at the beginning. And I quote, "The speed of the expansion was inversely proportional to the integrity of the new territories. The forces of conquest display religious and cultural flexibility that they neither fully control nor understood, the forces of conquest display religious and cultural flexibility, but were dependent on the local administrators and institutions that they neither fully control nor understood, and were often hostile to them. Internecine strife between peoples, cultures, and national groups, the privileges enjoyed by some, and grave deficiencies in the protection of equality and social justice weakened the new empire from within." And that's why we saw the fracture of the caliphate and the appearance of simultaneous caliphates in different regions at the same time. At the same time, we saw that the Umayyad Caliphate was, but then the Abbasiyya, the Abbasids established their caliphate. And we will see later on that even then we had the Fatimid Caliphate, we have the Caliphate in Al-Andalus, in Spain, all of these caliphates at the same time, because of these internal divisions and fractures that was indeed weakening the Islamic empire as a whole. But in more details, we will talk about the Umayyad, the Abbasid, the Ottomans and others in future videos. So far we have seen what happened after the death of the Prophet, the expansion of the Caliphate, and what this signified in the such a rapid expansion into very, very far lands, even into Europe, and establishing very really solid, though with some problems also, but solid dynasties, solid the strengthening of the Muslim Caliphate in these lands. I want to thank you for your attention. As always, thank you so much for watching these videos. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share this material, and don't forget to follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thank you so much for your attention. Don't forget to leave comments if you have any questions, something else to add to this brief history of Islam at the early stages. Thank you again, and we'll see each other in the next video.